Hey all, it's Ricardo. Today I'm showing you how to paint high contrast skin tones and non-metallic metal in the Obitus series. So, let's go! So I'll start with the most important part, the skin tone. I am mixing the colors from my limited palette, I never changed it. So it is white, magenta, honeymoon yellow. I will use green oxide to desaturate a little bit, and then a little bit of orange to make it warmer and add a little bit of red parts in the skin. This mix is basically the base skin tone that I was already using. And with the flow improver, I'll make it more flowy and more transparent to just correct the shadows and the midtones that I lost during the first part. This is a correction and an exercise in remixing your tones all over, so you may always correct your model throughout. It is good to recover midtones and do not lose them during your painting, because midtones is what constitute the perception of the color of the part. So it is a fairly common mistake to cover too much with the shadows, your midtones, and with the light, so that shadows and midtone touch each other, and this is not good. Now I'm mixing with white, honeymoon yellow, and a little bit of orange to create a warm highlight for the skin, mixing a little bit with the color I used before. The warm highlight will contrast with the purplish shadows that I painted before in the previous videos, so you can go and check them out. And this will increase the overall contrast feeling of the model that you can see. I later will do the last light in a different tone, so I need to increase the yellow feeling right now to contrast with the purple, because they are complementary. So it's pretty good to add yellows to your lights. Also, we perceive the light as brighter when it is yellow, so it's important to do that. I'm painting the upper part of the muscles and connect them, because skin is always connected to every part, so it is very important to not forget to connect the various muscles in the light. And also painting in between the muscles to not forget that muscles are not just painted in the raised part, but also in the depth with a light, because the light will catch those parts too. This is a common mistake. Now I am doing another light passages with white, the green to desaturate the light, and the yellow, the honeymoon yellow to make it lighter and a little bit warmer. And as you can see, I'm going in between the muscles. That part is often forgotten, so remember to do it. I desaturated the light because we are painting a desaturate skin, but still there is a yellow part in it in any case to increase the contrast with the shadows. contrast is starting to be very apparent right now, as you can see on the skin. Try to not paint over the mid-tone too much. The area needs to be less than the previous passages. It's very important. Now it is the time for a last light with white, oxide green and a touch of phonemon yellow to replicate, actually, as you can see, the light I used on the armor. So it is very similar, the final light that you have on the armor in the tone and in the skin, so the overall white balance of the model is preserved. This is a good way to ensure everything is balanced. If your final lights are the same overall on the model, same color, you will end up having a cohesive light on everything. The spots that I am applying this light are very small, as you can see, but your eye will understand that the color of the light is very similar. Do you feel like your painting skills are not improving fast enough? Check out our paid masterclasses. Top miniature artists share their techniques and secrets in extremely detailed videos. I personally took these classes and improved a lot in my own painting thanks to that. Support our channel and improve your skills by purchasing a class. Follow the link in the description for more information. Happy painting! So now that the skin is finished, what I'm doing is introducing the skin color into the armor. So I'm mixing magenta with the green oxide and the flow improver to make it transparent, and creating this red that is a little bit desaturated, and I'm making it into a glaze, and I'm glazing it into the recesses of the armor. This is very useful to tie things together. So the armor is actually going in the shadows in a similar color than the skin. And this is very useful to create a sense of a whole. We did this like you saw in the previous part with the light were the same color on the skin compared to the armor, and the shadow now are going to be the same in the armor compared to the skin. So a whitish green armor will have these red undertones in it, red, magenta, to be similar to the skin. And this is very useful to give a good feeling of a whole instead of a miniature painted in parts. And it's also an exercise in using the limited palette in the most ways possible. You see, I'm increasing all the shadows, and this magenta is actually near a purple as a color, so that the contrast is great between the greens and the yellows of the armor and the magenta purplish colors for the shadows. A simple paint job in the end can be made complex by all these little tones in it, that at the end you may not notice when everything is in place, but without it you will feel something is clearly missing in the painting. So these little tone variations are very useful. Now I'm mixing white and purple and black. A little bit of the dark honey from Fabrizio Russo's set. And the flowing brower to create this off-white. That was, as you can see, too strong, so I created a darker shade to do a first highlight on the grey-white checkered armor. In the end, painting is not a linear process, so you need to find your own mixes, your own colors. And I would stay away from triad system paint, for example, in which you have one color that is a shadow, one that is a mid-tone and one highlight, because the feeling in the end of the model would be everything very disconnected, and this is not useful at all if you want to improve painting. It also gives a strange feeling to the miniature, like everything is disconnected, the model is just a sum of parts instead of being a whole. And it will hinder your artistic capability in using those, because you are not thinking about the color and the paints, what is useful, what is not, what is a good color on a part, and so on. So experimenting and trying not to be linear in your process is extremely useful in the long run. Maybe at the beginning it's a little bit difficult, but then you'll get very good results. So for example, now I'm using the mix that was wrong at the beginning because it was too light as a light right now, since I put in place a mid-tone that was a little bit darker. And as everything, I'm using the same colors over and over in every part in different quantities to make things cohesive. And this is the beauty of a limited palette in the end. I'm slowly increasing all the lights in that checkered pattern. I try not to be as contrasted as the armor though, because this is fabric and fabric is less shiny than an armor. Also to avoid detracting from the interesting spot in the armor and not to draw too much attention on the fabric. As you can notice, I am working more on the inside part of each part of the model than on the edges. This is to give a zenithal light to the model and being more realistic, because edge highlight is good, but it's not enough to make a model realistic. It always feels a little bit toy-like, so I avoid doing only that. And sometimes, as you can see, I'm mixing stuff on the palette, mixing the color that is below to create new desaturated nuances, because you are incorporating things that are already on the palette that will stain your color a little bit. It doesn't really matter, because you are using the same colors over and over, and everything will look good together in the end. And if you ever feel the need of a color that is very pure, you can always glaze things over with pure colors in the end. And in the meantime, a little visitor came to my palette. As you may see, all the work of staining the model and making it more lived, more battlefield ready, let's say, is being done at the end of the process after I make the base, because I want to incorporate the base colors into the model. So I'll do it later in a second moment instead of doing it now. Now I'm trying to be a little bit clean and precise, and at the end I will incorporate all the weathering. Now that the white is working, I will work on the shield, the demon shield, with the dark honey from Fabrizio Russo, and mixing it with white, a little bit of orange, and I'm creating some gradients to work on the horns, the teeth, and the various parts. And the green plus white, since it's my light, it will always be present. And since this is first layers, I'm not using the flow improver. I am going with thicker paint. And I have a brush stroke that is with hatching and not a flow movement, because I want to create a little bit of a textured feeling. So I'm using browns to do bones, basically. The feeling of bone is given by the amount of desaturation of the color more than the hue of the color itself. As you can see, it started with brown, but now that the amount of white and a little bit of green is inserted in the mix, the feeling starts to change quite a lot. So bones, remember this, is mostly in the saturation and in the amount of white than the color used. So you should use a color that is in agreement with the rest of your palette to do bones, as everything that is composed of mostly white, and this means also skin tone actually, or no metallic metal. Contrast is finally appearing, and if there is one important lesson to know about this, if you want to go from tabletop quality to competition quality painting, it's all in the refinement and how long you take to refine your model, add micro detailing, add nuances, add little things that make it more interesting to look at the more you look at it intently. So this is the thing. The first steps are very similar, but it's the later steps that increase the feeling of professional painted. And it takes time, of course it takes time. If you notice, I also do another thing. I often stop and look at the model, look at what I'm doing, to understand what is needed next, to compare it with the rest of the model. Is the contrast similar, worse, better? So this is a thing to check. Now I'm creating a mix for the non-metallic metal parts that is done with the green oxide, the black, anemone yellow, but this I felt it was too similar to the mix of the armor, so I wanted a shift in nuance and make it colder. So you'll see that I will change stuff in the end. I was trying on the plate in the chest to see if the colors satisfied me, but they wouldn't stand out too much. So what I'm doing, as you can see, I am adding some purple to the mix to make it colder, to make it a colder still, because I wasn't satisfied at all. And this is an important lesson. Try stuff, understand what you're doing, and then adjust as a consequence. So I'm switching to a colder metal because purple is colder than green in the end, to create a new type of color that is still similar to the rest of the model, because purple was present in any case, in the shadow, in the skin, in the fabric. So now I was feeling better about it, and I was inserting those little metal trims with purple that would tie things together more and still feel different than the green parts that I painted before. I'm pushing the highlight higher on these metal parts to make the metal more shiny, as you can see on the shoulder. So I'm adding way more white to the mix, and this will show in the end product, so you can perceive materials as being different. The various materials have a different level of glossiness, so they needed to be treated differently in the amount of lights. Also, they have a different in texture, so you need different strokes to paint them. And these are all techniques that will bring your paint from being too homogeneous to being more interesting to look at, because if you have many differences in your painting, in texture, in the amount of light and reflexes each part has, depending on the material, you will create something that is very interesting to look at. So this is what I'm trying to do in the shoulder pad and the other trims that I have around the model. Out of cam I also painted the arms of the shield. Now with a magenta, black and orange, I'm creating this extremely dark color to black line and put shadows in the face and create more contrast on the demon face. This is very similar to what I did in the skin tone actually, so you can see similarities from the first videos. Strong shadows are extremely useful to create this contrast sense and make everything readable, so do not skip on them. The black lining part is extremely useful in this. Now with white and orange and a little bit of green, the color that I used before, I'm creating a new tone. To do some highlights on the skin of the demon. I'm jumping a little bit from the mid-tone to a almost final light because the space is not enough to do gradients in any case, but lights are always needed to show the contrast. If you notice, this color is already present in the palette on the left side actually for the armor, so I'm tying the highlights of the green part with the more red part, magenta part of the meat, of the flesh of this demon. So I'm always going to look for similar color that I used before to be cohesive, but not perfectly identical. You don't need to be identical. The reality, the nature is never identical in every part. There are always little shifts in tone, so don't worry to be perfect. Just an approximation is very good. So I'm bringing the shield to the same contrast that I have on the main model, and it's basically finished. This is an alizarin crimson heavy body. That is the color of the blood, actually, and I'm glazing it in the skin of the demon to make it more gory. It's also a glossy color, so it's very good in the recesses of shadows to make them deeper. Together with black, it's a very dark and powerful color. This is how you do it when you feel the need of a color that is not in your limited palette. So I felt the need of a blood color that I didn't have in my palette with a shiny effect. Could have done it with magenta, but it was matte. So I picked up a similar color and applied it. Remember that glossy color have more depth than matte colors. This is why I'm using it right now. I did the same on the skin of the model of the Obitus. Thank you for sticking with me through this episode. Remember to subscribe and turn on the notification setting, because on the next episode we will talk about how I made the base. So I hope to see you soon, and happy painting!